I'm Avia Rose Ram. I'm a third-year studio arts major at SDSU with an emphasis in painting and sculpture, and I just want to thank the SDSU Art Council for letting me talk today. I've never won anything for my work before, so this was really validating, and I feel like it really lit a fire under me, so thanks. But, next slide.
Is it moving?
Is it moving? Okay, so I'm going to explain to you guys how I started to make giant wall-sized oil paintings of two sheep having intercourse. And
How you woke everybody up.
and how I fell in love with just this, painting sheep and painting myself. But first I wanted to start off with, I'm from San Diego. I was born here, and I come from two pilots from the Air Force. And we were raised Catholic, and this was a picture of me and my mom at my baptism when I was a little baby. I don't really remember much of my childhood. I just remember it was really quiet. There was not a lot of music, and but I did go to a Christian school for like 5 or 6 years, and there wasn't really any imagery or music there either. But I remember there was this really ugly landscape painting in the chapel above the baptism pool, and I spent all of the sermon trying to figure out, like, how could I make it better instead of praying. And so this was my okay, so this is my first oil painting in high school, and at this point I had just chosen to drop religion. It just wasn't my thing, but I still fell in love with the icons and the artistry in churches. So I think my love for my icons show here, and also my good positive outlook on the world. But when I got to college and I turned 18, a really traumatic thing happened to me. An older man raped me in my sleep, and I didn't want to talk about it, and I didn't for a really long time. But this is when I learned that painting was my outlet, my emotional outlet, and how I got through the day every day. And around the same time that happened, I discovered Caravaggio and the Baroque, and I fell in love with the grotesque imagery, the religious symbolism, the dark colors. This was what was going through my head, and I think it was very important for me to learn about him when I was going through this traumatic time. But that fall at SDSU, I took my first painting class, and my professor really caught on to the fact that I love Caravaggio, so he taught me how to paint like him. And this was my final project for that semester. And this was the same emotion depicted as that first painting I showed you, and I think it kind of shows the development of my style. And I furthered my art history study by learning about the Romantic period. Left is Jericho, the right is Goya. And again, they just had intense emotional imagery that I really resonated with, and I really thought this was what was happening in my head, and I saw it in these old paintings. And then that summer I went to France, and this was the first painting I made in France. And again, I was still dealing with this depression and suicidal thoughts. And even in another country, I don't know why I let it follow me there, but the more I walked around the city of Paris, and I studied the churches, this is the Saint-Sulpice Cathedral in Paris, and I just saw the stained glass windows and the beautiful statues, and I fell in love with the artistry in them, and I found that same peace that I did in San Diego, looking at the paintings in the churches in San Diego. And I was walking around France, and I found myself painting in front of these Romanesque churches, and I kind of realized my issues at home and my mental issues were so small, and that there was this whole world I could discover, and I kind of fell in love with human interaction and being with my friends and discovering new places. But when I returned back home, life got hard again. Someone very close to me committed suicide, and my partner left me, and painting was no longer enough for me, and I had to punch clay to get my anger out. And for some reason I was still obsessed with these sheep. I didn't know why yet. But I kind of realized, okay, I gotta go somewhere else. So I went to San Francisco, and I went to the cathedrals there, and this was the Grace Cathedral in San Francisco. And again, finding peace in the art there and studying it and finding happiness again there. And then I returned to San Diego, and for some reason, I don't know, I feel like a switch flipped. I feel like I was just tired of feeling sorry for myself. So I needed to just release my anger and my emotions in these giant in-your-face pieces so that I could finally enjoy the world again and leave my emotions and sadness there. And so this was a life-size sculpture I made. It's called How I Cry, and it's supposed to encourage viewers to sit down with her and hold her and cry with her. And I wanted people to kind of acknowledge their emotions while they looked at it as well. But now I just wanted to kind of refer back to that last painting I mentioned the very beginning of the presentation. It was in front of the SDSU art buildings, and it actually got stolen and ripped off the frame. And I kind of realized, like, people do not like intense, raw, explicit work. But I want to keep doing it because I think it's very important to do them too, because that's what depression and rape is. It's dark and it's in your face, and I feel like that's why I'm crazy enough and I remade it, and I remade it bigger, and I've kind of come to terms with the fact that these sheep kind of represent the demons in my head that tell me to die, and the more I paint them, the more I get them out of my head, and the happier I am, and you know, with my work, I just want people to feel less alone. I had girls who've experienced sexual assault come up to me and say, I don't feel alone in my feelings anymore. But I just wanted to end this presentation with saying, like, I'm still dealing with the thoughts in my head, but I've completely fallen in love with my friends and human interaction, and one of my best friends is here. So it's just like, I just feel like I'm going to be in this world a lot longer than I thought I would. So thanks.